Hey, beautiful people. Here's the mending moment for today. So, the day before yesterday, I read Leviticus 15. However, I did not have the time to record. So, I'm here today and I'm going to record and just share with you all some of the little nuggets that I got from Leviticus 15. Leviticus 15 spoke about bodily discharge in men and women. So, I'll be speaking from the perspective of a woman for a little moment. I don't know about anybody else, but when it's that time of the month, I feel nasty. I don't want to be touched. I don't want to do much. I just feel disgusting. It's like, leave me alone. Okay. And when I was reading this, I was like, if I was alive back then, I probably would have went through a state of depression. I probably would have been a little depressed because when I think about how I feel now when it happens and compared to the process that was in place for them when it happened, man, I would have felt like a disease. I would have felt inadequate. I would have felt good for nothing. I would have felt like, I don't know. Listen, so let me just tell y'all some of the things that took place when a woman had her little friend to come visit her. Um, Everything that she sat on was considered unclean. During this time of the month, she was considered unclean. The clothes she had on was considered unclean. Anybody that touched her was considered defiled and unclean. The bed that she laid on was considered unclean. This lady could not touch anything during this time of the month without it being considered unclean. Anybody that touched her was considered unclean. The clothes that they had on, the things that they sat on, the bed that they laid in was considered unclean. And it just was a domino effect. So these people that were considered unclean had to be isolated. They had to be quarantined, y'all. She had to be quarantined for however long this went on. For however long her friend was visiting her, she had to be quarantined. And some days ago, I made a video about Leviticus 13 and 14, and I was just sharing some things with you all. But back then, things weren't how they are now, where we can go to the hospital and we can get a prescription and we just be okay. So these discharges was beyond just a monthly friend visit for the ladies, but it's discharged with men and all of these things. Anytime there was a discharge, the people were considered unclean. They had to be quarantined, and everything that they touched and laid in and sat on was considered defiled, y'all. It was considered defiled. Now, let me tell you how our emotions can get the best of us and cause us to miss out on the bigger picture. As I'm reading this, I was like, no, I don't know how I would have felt if people were treating me like that. I don't know how I would have felt if somebody told me just because I sat on something, it's unclean too. Or, oh, just because they touched you, now they unclean. Everything they got on unclean. It makes you feel like a disease. I don't know how I would have felt. And I don't think I would have been okay with having to feel the way that I feel concerning something that was completely out of my control. So even though this thing was out of their control, this monthly visit was out of their control and their body was going to do whatever it was going to do, they still had a guideline that they had to follow for the protection of the people around them. But as I was in my emotions and I'm thinking like, no, I don't think I could have. Nah, I don't know about that. That ain't right. As I'm in my emotions, what I realized was there was a bigger picture. Even their access to the tabernacle was cut off because they were unclean. All because they had a monthly friend come visit them that was out of their control. They couldn't even go into the tabernacle. And I'm like, hold on, you gonna cut off the access to God? All because my body doing something that I can't make stop. But what I realized is this was not to harm them. This was to keep them safe, because anybody that went into the tabernacle unclean could have died. So, no, I'm not rejecting you, I'm protecting you. I know you feel the way that you feel. You may feel disgusting. You may feel uncomfortable, and all of these other feelings and emotions that can come with following the guidelines that had to be followed. But I'm trying to keep you alive. You can't come in this tabernacle because I want to keep you here. So, not only did I think about that, how our emotions can get in the way, but I was thinking about how we know that life and death is in the power of the tongue, but this chapter also revealed to me that life and death is in the power of our actions. Because oftentimes, many of us say one thing, oh, I want to be free, I want to be whole, I want to be healed, and all this and all this. We say one thing, but our actions say another. Yeah, your mouth is making one choice and proclaiming and declaring one decision, but your actions is making an opposite decision. Your actions are making an opposite choice. Your mouth can choose heaven, but your actions can choose hell. So this revealed to me that life and death is in the power of the actions as well. Because if they didn't follow the guidelines, they didn't go through the process, they didn't follow the procedure, they could have died. If anybody would have got to a point where they like, look, this discharge ain't got nothing to do with me, this out of my control, I'm finna go in this tabernacle, they could have died. So the moral of me sharing this is there will be some situations that we find ourselves in that may cause us to feel angry, that may cause us to feel uncomfortable, like we're not loved, like we're being mistreated, like we're being overlooked. And whatever emotion you may be feeling, sometimes there are some situations that we find ourselves in that will bring on emotions that we are not okay with, but do not allow those emotions to cause you to miss what God is doing in the background. Yes, they had to do all of these things and they were considered unclean and defiled, all because their body was doing something that was out of their control. Yes, they were. They were considered unclean. Yes, they were looked at as like, you know. It's like, oh, you messed that up. Now that's unclean. Oh, you did that. Like, now you can't be touched. You can't. Yes, all of this was true, but it was for their protection. It was for their protection, the protection of people around them, the protection of themselves. So the bigger picture was not in their emotions and how the process made them feel, but the bigger picture was what God was trying to do. So I'm doing all of this so that you will not die. I'm doing all of this to keep you safe. All of this is in place to keep you safe. So don't allow your emotions to cause you to be blind to the bigger picture, to be blind to what God is doing. It may be uncomfortable, but there's a bigger picture. It may not feel good. Sometimes we feel like we have to love on people that mistreat us, and that makes us feel uncomfortable. We got to be nice to people who are mean and despise us, and that makes us feel some type of way. But all of this is in place for your own good. It is not to harm you. It's not to make you feel like a coward because you can't clap back. It's to keep you safe. It's not to harm you. Second thing, it's a must that we make sure our actions are in alignment with our words. You can't just speak and declare and proclaim a thing, but your actions not follow. Because just because your mouth is making one choice, your actions can contradict that decision that you made vocally. Your actions can contradict what you proclaimed. Your actions can make a whole nother decision than what your mouth did. So this chapter revealed to me that life and death is in the power of your actions, that life and death is in our obedience. Life and death lies in our actions. What are you choosing with your actions? What choice are you making with your actions? A lot of us say, I want to be free. I want to be healed. I want to be whole. I want to be happy. I want to have peace. I want to have joy. But what choice are you making with your actions? What decision is your actions proclaiming? Because if they decided to be disobedient, any man, any woman decided to not follow these guidelines, they could have died. And I'm pretty sure nobody here wanted to die, but their actions could have made the decision for them. Their actions could have chose death out of their disobedience. So this was a blessing to me. I hope it blessed y'all. I hope it helped somebody. I hope it did something for somebody. Let's not allow what we feel, how we feel, to get in the way of the bigger picture. And it's so crazy because sometime last year I was just saying that I'm focused on the bigger picture. Nothing's getting in my way. I don't care what people do, what people say. I'm focused on the bigger picture. But reading this year, it's like you have to be focused on the bigger picture because you can miss it. It only takes one time to miss it. Because anybody could have made the choice to say, look, y'all treating me like this, and what's going on with me is out of my control. I'm still going in the tabernacle. Ain't got nothing to do with what my body doing. I can't make it stop. I'm going in the tabernacle. You can't cut off my access. You can't isolate me from people because my body doing something that I don't control. Anybody could have functioned in disobedience and died. And their emotions, their logical thinking would have caused them to miss the bigger picture and died. Because whether they knew that God was doing this to keep them alive or not, their actions could have still made a decision. Are you going to follow the guidelines that I've given to you to keep you safe? You may not know right now that this is keeping you safe, that this is keeping you alive, that this is for your protection. You might not know because it don't feel good. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's keeping you alive, that it's keeping you safe. So y'all, I hope this blessed somebody. I hope this helped somebody. This is the mending moment for today. And until next time, bye.